The Baltimore Orioles starting rotation has been a huge talk of this offseason, but most notably on February 1st where they officially got an ace in Corbin Burns, and after this a lot of people were fantasizing about this incredible rotation with Burns, Bradish, Rodriguez, Means, and Kramer. However, on the day February 15th, this changed drastically. Now, I don't know where you were on that day, but if you were on social media around 10:20, and if you're a super fan, you probably remember exactly where you are because you got caught off guard with a bunch of pitching injury news. Now, every team deals with injuries, so it's important not to overreact, but John Means will miss a little bit of time, probably miss about half of April. It doesn't seem too bad, and Kyle Bradish is the real concern because he has some sort of UCL injury, and he'll probably be out a few months. But obviously that's not the point of this video because, we already know they're not making it. At least I assume if you clicked on this video, you knew that. So let's get into what the rotation will probably look like on opening day. So obviously we're going to start with the most obvious one. Corbin Burns, especially since Bradish is hurt, is the ace of this team. We all know this. He won a Cy Young in 21, had a quote down year last year, but most people just said he was adjusting to the pitch clock in the second half. I don't have the stats, but in the second half his stats are much better. He has the big wall in Baltimore, and he's adjusted to the pitch clock more. I think he's going to have a really good season, and he's easily our ace. Now, 3 is where it's going to really get interesting, but I think it's pretty obvious to say that the first 2 are obvious choices that everyone will agree with. So at number 2, we have Grayson Rodriguez. Grayson Rodriguez was our number 2 with the later half of last year after he came up, and after he came up again, I think it was. Overall pitched to a 4.35 ERA, but after he came back up and in the second half, his ERA was in the 2s. I don't know exactly what it was, but it was somewhere in the 2s. And of course, he pitched game 2 for the division series, so he got all the way to number 2. I think that starting off this year, he's also going to be at 2 because of the injuries. He would have been at 3 below Burns and Bradish, but because of the Bradish injury, he's going to go to number 2. And I don't think that that's surprising to anyone that he's going to be at 2, like I'm predicting. So yeah, I think that he'll be at number 2, and now let's get to 3, 4, and 5. So let's go to number 3, and like I said, this is where it starts to get a question mark. So in our dream rotation, our number 3 would be Rodriguez, but in this case, I think it goes to Tyler Wells. And some of you may thought Dean Kramer, but here's why it's Tyler Wells. First of all, in Brandon Hyde's MLB Network interview, he said that Tyler Wells, he sees him as a starter. So that fits another piece of our puzzle to figure this out. So since we have injuries, Tyler Wells will probably be in the rotation. But that being said, the question is obviously where. I think that this isn't really much of a question though, because, if you look at what he did last year, he did seriously well in the first half, and the reason why he didn't finish so well and got sent down is because, like Brandon Hyde said, he ran out of gas. I know that a lot of people don't like that excuse, but he was in the bullpen for a long time. He didn't have a ton of starting pitching experience. Maybe you can fault them for not looking out for that. I don't know if they expected that to happen last year, but it happened either way, but it's whatever because we're on to 24, and I think he'll be more well-equipped. And I'm not going to act like I'm a pitching coach and know this, but I'm assuming he'll be more well-equipped to be a starter this year. If you look at his stats last year, he had a 3.64 ERA and 20 starts. And overall, he just, he did well. And I think, he gives up a home run about every start, but he's still going to be a good number 3 for us. Moving on to our number 4 starter, we have Dean Kramer. And I think that, he did have a bit of a down year last year, 4.12 ERA and 32 games started. But that being said, he didn't get injured. He started 32 games. That's a full season. And, obviously in 2022, he had a 3.23 ERA, so that was he had a much better season. But still, he's put together like a 3.7 something ERA the past 2 seasons, if I had to guess the combination of those two. And he's been a really reliable starter, not gotten really hurt a bunch. So I think that having him as number 4 is good. Like, I felt great about him being our 5. And even so, I still feel good about him being a 4, and if he could just have a season that's a combination of the last 2 seasons where it's a little better than last year, maybe a little worse than 22, I still think that that's really good, and he doesn't get injured. So if he puts together 32 starts for us and has a 3.76 ERA, for example, that's a really good 4, or eventually 5 if we get our perfect, rotation. And then lastly at 5, I think we have Cole Irvin. So I think it goes without saying that Cole Irvin was a bit disappointing last season. We saw him as a starter. didn't do super well, especially in the beginning of the season, and got knocked around by Oakland of all teams. So we eventually moved him to the bullpen, and I can't completely remember, but I think he did an okay job there. But either way, 4.42 ERA in, he started 12 games. That 4.42 was in both. So I know it went down a lot, because, I remember now, his ERA was much higher than that when he was a starter, and he did better in the bullpen. But because of injuries, I think that we're going to put him in the rotation at 5. And, obviously, if you look, in 22, you had a 3.98 ERA. Obviously, ERA is not everything. But, in 21 for Oakland, I don't know how good their defense was, but he started all 32 games, and he had a 4.24 ERA, and he somehow won 10 games, and he still was a decent pitcher. I was excited when we got him because he was a decent pitcher. The Orioles don't acquire a lot of decent pitchers from other teams. The only way we seem to get good pitchers is homegrown, right? We just don't have that history, which is why when we got Corbin Burns, I was ridiculously excited, but rightfully so, right? That being said, if he can build upon last year or learn from last year and have an okay, and keep in mind, John Means is going to be out for not that long. So I assume Cole Irvin will be the guy that gets bumped down after John Means comes back. So if he just gives us 4 to 5 starts at most, right? And 4 to 5 decent starts, I think that's really all we need. Obviously injuries are going to happen throughout the season, but if he can be decent in the bullpen and give us some decent outings whenever we need it, I think that's fine with me. And for me, he's an okay 5th starter. So lastly, I'm just going to mention a few guys that could also be the 5th starter, or for some reason if they went with 6 starters, or if there was injuries, which obviously right now I'm just going off of who's injured and who's not. But let's just say for some reason they are insistent on Cole Irvin being in the bullpen. Who would be the 5th starter? Or Tyler Wells, and Cole Irvin would move up 1 spot. But either way, I think that the most likely would probably be Julio Teron, or Teheran, however you pronounce it. We just picked him up as a free agent, and his stats are a bit weird. He started in 11 games last year for Milwaukee, and he had a 4.40 ERA, so nothing crazy. He didn't pitch in 22 for whatever reason. 21, he pitched 1 game. 2020, he was terrible. In 2019, he was good, 3.81 ERA and 33 starts, which is a full season, obviously. And so I doubt we're going to get 2019 Julio Teron. Probably would be somewhere in the mid-4s. If we needed him for 1 or 2 starts, I guess he could be okay. I don't have a ton of trust in him, but that would probably be the most likely. Other than that, I see 2 more options, which is Keegan Aken. Obviously, he was a starter in 2021. Not very good. I would really hope it doesn't come to that, because I don't have really any trust in him, or in the bullpen either. Not much. I don't remember how he did in the bullpen last year, honestly, though, so you guys can remind me in the comments. But other than that, and I'm not saying this person's below him, because I don't know, but I would say Bruce Zimmerman. Actually, Bruce Zimmerman, I would say, is definitely a little bit above him. All the diehard Orioles fans remember in spring training of 2021, I think it was, he looked really good, and he started in our rotation, and he was good at first. He pitched in the home opener against Milwaukee, but after a while, he just wasn't very good. Hasn't been in the majors a ton in the past few years, but overall, he's just been disappointing, hasn't looked great. So I would say that he's an option if we need him to be, but probably not. And then the last one is, I guess, Mike Baumann. He was, for some reason, good in the bullpen last year. I don't know how, but he was. He was in our 21 rotation, I think, for a while, and he was just awful. He was, one of the guys right before the rebuild ended in our rotation, like in 21, maybe 22, who was just really bad in our rotation. And yeah, hopefully, I guess he'll stay in the bullpen where he's okay, but those are the only other 3 people, or 4, however many I listed, I think, could also be in the rotation. But like I said, I think my 1 through 5 are set. And so I guess the last point I'll make is that you could argue a few swaps in my order. Just to remind you, Corbin Burns 1, Rodriguez 2, Tyler Wells 3, Dean Kramer 4, Cole Irvin 5. The swap that I could see for most certainly, if they do it, I don't know what I just said, but anyway. So I think the one I could see the most is having having Dean Kramer above Tyler Wells, because Kramer has more experience in the rotation, because, Wells, again, he got burned out. but I think Wells is still better. Like I think I said earlier, he gives up like a home run a game, but then he gives up like nothing else, so he's still really good. He never gave up more than like 2 runs a game, but he always gave up a home run. It was frustrating, but he was still good. He was good but frustrating, so I think I could see that for sure. Other than that, I just couldn't see really anything else. Cole Irvin above Kramer would be really weird. Tyler Wells 5 would be weird. I think he's just too good. If you have any recommendations you think, put them in the comments, but other than that, I think that's really it. So more highlights from spring training are coming, and other than that, more commentary videos, stuff like that. So if you're a huge Orioles fan like me, baseball fan, sports fan, whatever, I think I'll have some decent content. So hopefully you subscribe, and thank you for watching.